until that occurs, and we're going to skip down to 9A, the accounts payable in the back of the book. You all had a chance to review the accounts payable. Can I have a motion to approve these, please? Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Funk. Any discussion? Anything further? Call for the question. All those in favor? We have 9B. We have 2016 Consolidated Financial Report on page 22. Mr. Workentine, is there anything to add?
Other than these financial statements were prepared in accordance with the program and requirements of the Municipal Act. The gist of the financial statements and the summary of the operations were reviewed with Council and the City's Auditor, Chambers, Fraser and Company, a couple of weeks ago. And in order to complete the process, recommendation is that Council formally adopt the 2016 financial statements as noted.
All right, Council, on page 22, there is a motion there. Can I have someone make that motion, please? Councillor Swagstra, second by Councillor Siemens. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, the consolidated financial reports show that that we have accurate numbers that the city's put out in terms of where our budget is at, and I believe it also illustrates that again that the city is in a solid and healthy financial position, and that's good to see continue.
Thank you. Further discussion? Anything further from Council? Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. We have the 9C. We have the PSAB-based 2017 budget on page 32. Mr. Workentine.
This budget document, as appears on page 34 of Council's agenda package, is an annual document that's presented to Council. While the City of Steinbach does approve its annual financial plan each year, there are certain reporting requirements with respect to public sector auditing board standards that are also required to be reported on. This particular budget document does convert the city's annual financial plan into these PSAB-based standards, and recommendation is for Council to adopt this PSAB budget for 2017.
All right, there is a resolution on page 32. You've all had a chance to review this. How would Council like to proceed? Councillor Swagstra.
I'll move that we approve.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Fair. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The PSAB is the Public Sector Accounting Board, and it's a standard system across the country that requires that we report total assets of the city. And to make a long story short, this takes into consideration the assets that the city has. And in terms of the total assets that the city has, that continues to grow. And assets include everything from city buildings to our streets. And Steinbach continues to grow, and so our assets continue to grow as well, and that is a positive thing, and that's why that number continues to increase.
Thank you. Anything further? Anything in closing? Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. And just before we move to the public hearing, we're going to go through 2017 Municipal Road and Bridge Program, page 35. You've all had a chance to review that information. Mr. Workentine, anything further to add?
Just to summarize, this is an annual grant program that is sponsored by the province of Manitoba based on the city's 2017 capital plan. The schedule shown on page 39 indicates the particular projects under the city's 2017 pavement management program that the city is proposing to apply for funding. With that program, the request for provincial support amounts to $245,000 with the resolution as indicated on page 39.
All right, Mr. Workentine, just before we proceed, is my understanding that $400,000 is actually the maximum that we could apply for? Is that correct?
That's correct, and due to the grant program criteria and the city's 2017 capital program, this is the maximum amount of projects that would qualify for funding, being the $245,000.
Are you telling us that there are no other projects that would qualify under this?
That the city is undertaking this year, no.
All right, Council, that might be something that would need to be considered in the July study session. Mr. Workentine, can we also make additional requests other than just this project? Can we make an additional in the future?
I would have to confirm what the formal grant application request deadline is. However, it would need to be filed, I would expect, within the next few weeks.
Okay, one final question. Is there a possibility to delay this till the next council meeting to get those decisions? Or is that past the deadline?
I believe the application may be required prior to the next council meeting. However, as this is solely the approving resolution of council, my understanding in past grant program applications, it has been acceptable for council to submit its approving resolution subsequent to the application deadline. So, yes.
Thank you. So what you're suggesting is that if there is some way to find additional projects that would qualify for this, that we may be able to add them in the next little while, is that correct?
It is. However, I would also like to add, for the benefit of council, that that review was done no less than 3 times to ensure that we had turned over as many rocks as we could find.
I get it. Thank you. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Penner.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Funk. Go ahead.
Yes, this is part of our management program for street works and pavement renewal. What we have is a 50% funding that we are using towards part of Mackenzie from Lilac to Giesbrecht and Blair Bay to Clover Bay. And this will really improve the area for those residents.
Thank you. Anything further?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I think this is a good program. It's offered by our provincial government, and it's a tax back to, or a tax refund back to us. It's money, and we have a 50-50 payment program here, and I think anytime we can take advantage of a grant, we need to.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councillor Swaggster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will support this as well, and I'll just note that I live in the neighborhood, and I've certainly well observed that the work is well underway, so it definitely makes sense for us to apply for this by the deadline, so I'm very much in favor of making the application.
Thank you. Anything further from council? All right. Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, Council, we will now move to the public hearing. This is the Conditional Use CU-2017-02. This is in regards to 88 Acres Drive on page 4. Mr. Workington, I will close the council meeting, open the public hearing. Mr. Workington, can I ask you to open or introduce this, please?
Yes, and before I introduce this particular file, I wish to also advise council that this conditional use application is also related to the next item on council agenda, which is number 8A, the sale of land for 88 Acres Drive. Just due to the ordering that has to happen, the conditional use is an application seeking to allow a particular use on that subject property. And therefore, that's why this particular file is being presented first. This is application for conditional use 2017-02 for 88 Acres Drive. The purpose of the application is to allow a place of worship to locate on a property zoned M1 or light industrial. The current owner of the property is the City of Steinbach, with the applicant for the conditional use being Ecclesia Fellowship Church. Notices as required under the Planning Act have been completed. There is one written notice of objection that is in council's agenda package. You would also have received in your mail bins this afternoon an additional letter that was issued. However, that one particular letter is in support of the application. Based on the administrative review of this application, there are a number of precedents that council has set with respect to previous applications to locate churches in this particular zone. And in light of that, the recommendation from administration is subject to any further information that may be provided at the public hearing, that council approve the application for conditional use.
Thank you. We do have the applicant or someone representing the applicant here today. Is there anyone here wishing to object to this conditional use? Is there anyone here wishing to object to this conditional use? I'll ask a third time. Anyone here wishing to object or have any questions on this conditional use application? Seeing none, does the applicant wish to speak today, or anyone from? If you would, take the podium. Please state your name and your address just for the record.
My name is Arthur Adam. My address is 17 Pleasant Drive, Steinbach, Manitoba, Canada.
Very good.
Okay. We found a piece of land. We've been having a church and fellowship together for the last 12 years, and we found a piece of land in Steinbach, right in Steinbach, that really is it is pleasant to our eyes, and I think it would be a good place to have a church. And the church we'd like to make it as about up to 80 to 100 people, and a parking lot will be paved in the future. I think it would be a good place for fellowship. And the gentleman was mentioning about residential and commercial. Well, churches don't seem to belong anywhere that they fit, but yet churches sure do a good work, you know. And we would like to have the okay from this council to be able to build. And we will follow all the guidelines that we need to. We will do everything that is right, and we'll make this place look good. And it's a commercial place, and business people, sometimes they get down and they can come and see us for counseling, and we're going to help them, you know. We're going to do a good job for them. I've known this guy here for years. Actually, was the first guy I met in Steinbach at John Fair. He had invited me to a supper, and I love Steinbach, and I think it's a good place to be, and it's a good place to have a church. That's all I have to say. If anybody wants to ask a question about anything, I'd be pleased to answer that.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Penner.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the applicant. Can you tell me, not all churches operate on the same hours as they used to previously. What would be your hours you would expect to have people at the church?
This is a good question. During the week, people work. And usually church, all my life, it's been on Sunday. We have church on Sunday, and it would be Sunday morning. So it would not interfere with anybody's job. That's all. That's in the 12 years I've been around here. We've had church in the morning. We've never had it at night. We always had it from 10 to 12, once a week.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Funk? Very good. Councillor Fair?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I'm just wondering, do you see business next door that there might be noise issues ever that would bother you, or that's something that's it's just something that happens? You know,
No.
We've had to talk about it before.
No. No, I don't believe there would be, because we don't operate on the same time. And not only that, sometimes if we have to put up with something, it's good for our flesh to be disciplined. And no, I don't see any issue with that. None.
Very good. Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you. This was easy.
You should come to the rest of our council meetings. You see how it goes. All right. I will now close the public hearing and open the council meeting. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Fair?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Move to approve. Seconded by Councillor Penner. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there are several precedents already in the city, and I believe that the church is, I agree with Mr. Adams here. Where do you place a church? I mean, we don't want to, residential places might be objecting to it. So I think it's a fairly good fit for that area, and there's a lot of room there. And I guess one thing that we'll have to do is it's got to be conditional upon the development agreement being agreed to. So,
Thank you. Further discussion?
Yes, I have no issues with the conditional use based on the precedents of the city as well, allowing churches in the industrial area. It's seemed to work very well so far. We've heard no major complaints from people that are having their places of worship, even from the other parties in the industrial area. So I think it's a good fit so far, and the evidence proves that.
Thank you. Further discussion? Anything in closing? All right. Council, call for the question. All those in favor of the conditional use? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We will now move to 8A, and that's the sale of the land of 88 Acres Drive on page 14. Mr. Workentine, anything further from this?
The gist of the information is provided in the agenda package. There is a signed offer to purchase from Mr. Arthur Adam, and subject to council approval. The offer is for $78,000 for 88 Acres Drive, and it was conditional upon council approval of the conditional use application, as that has now been approved by council. The sale of this particular parcel could proceed. Recommendation from administration is that council approve the sale for $78,000 to Mr. Arthur Adam.
Thank you. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Fair?
I've got a question.
Sure.
Should the offer to purchase be from the fellowship, or is Mr. Adams buying this personally? Does it?
Mr. Workentine, we have an offer to purchase. There's a question about the name on there. Is there anything that concerns the city in that regard?
No, there are no concerns.
Okay, thank you. Move to approve. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Swagstra. Any discussion?
Well, Mr. Mayor, this is a property that we bought a few months ago, and I think that we bought that with the intent to sell it, and so we have an opportunity, a willing buyer, and I think that's the best time to sell it. So.
Thank you. Anything further? Anything further from council? Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. You may now proceed. Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to say this, I don't know if it's important. Once that everything is ready, it's not going to be under my name. It's going under Ecclesial Fellowship.
Yeah.
I don't want it on.
I kind of thought that. But
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Good to see you.
Thank you. All right. We have 9E. We have the bylaw 2082. This is 333 Loewen Blvd. This is on page 40. Mr. Workentine.
Yes, this file, bylaw 2082, is application for a rezoning for property located at 333 Loewen Blvd. The recommendation from administration is for council to give this proposed bylaw first reading. The appropriate public notices and public hearing could then be scheduled for sometime in late July 18th, 2017, where council could consider the matter further.
Thank you. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Siemens.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a piece of property on Loewen Blvd that's currently in transition, and they're looking to make a change from commercial to residential mixed use, which works in that area because there is residential on Loewen Blvd already, and as well as other properties. So I think this is a good fit for that area.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Swagstra.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's obviously an important and significant property, and this is obviously will be a zoning change from commercial regional to residential mixed use, which is a transition that does happen sometimes. This enables us to go to the public hearing, which is important because that's when we hear from the applicant and we hear from the neighborhood. And so I'm certainly in favor of the process continuing, so that way we can get all the information we need in regards to making a final decision.
Thank you. Further discussion? Anything in closing? No, sir. Council, obviously we see that it's actually sometimes surprising to see what certain zonings are of certain buildings, and we see that this one is commercial regional. And so the change to residential mixed use is unique and interesting. It's one of the first in Steinbach since it's been created. And so we look forward to going through this process to see what the public has to say and what the plans are for this location. Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. We have 9F. We have bylaw 2084. This is on page 47. Mr. Workentine.
This is the bylaw to update the remuneration for members of Steinbach Council. This follows from the Mayor's Task Force report that was provided to Council approximately 8 weeks ago. Those recommendations as contained in the report from that time were recommended by City Council to bring forward in the form of a bylaw. Those provisions have now been written in. If Council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. However, I do believe the draft of this bylaw does reflect the intent and desire of Council, and if Council is prepared to proceed, it may give the bylaw first and second reading.
All right. Thank you. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Funk.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve as it is presented.
Well, actually, I would like to make an amendment to
Okay.
point number 13.
Oh, 12 and 13?
And to change the date to maybe July 1st, 2017.
All right. So by changing that to July 1st, 2017, you also, point number 12, you'd be changing that to July 30, June 30th, sorry, 2017. Okay. So you move it not as presented, but as with those slight changes. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Penner? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we've talked many times, our city's changing, and so is our role as councillors changing. And we're growing into a big city, but we're still a small city, so everywhere we go, we're always on duty. One thing I find as I go through the city, I'm either a butcher or a councillor, and that I can't get away from that, and nor do I want to, but that's just the challenges we have. But we also had a task force. They were intelligent, they did their diligence, they checked up. I believe I heard the number was 100 municipalities. Like they really went and compared us to what other councillors are getting paid for the same job. So I think in order to respect them, I think we should be also approving this. Also, it's not for just today, but it's for the future. It's for allowing and enticing or encouraging other quality members of our society to also run for council. And we want to we all have a desire to leave Steinbach better than we came into it. And that's what brought us to this place in council. And it comes on and that's why people volunteer, that's why people get on board, because they want to contribute, and we do too. And I'd like to see quality people come behind me. So as much as we're doing it for today, we're also doing it for those that come behind us. And that is why I believe in this, and I believe this is something we need to move through.
Thank you. Councillor Penner, anything further?
Just another comment I'd like to make. I've served on City Council for a number of years already. I think I'm approaching year 12. I have seen enormous change in the responsibilities of councillors, in the scope of the decisions that we make and the impact that it has for the future. It has also been a role that has called for a lot of our personal time, sacrifices from family, sacrifices from work and other pursuits, and I think that due compensation is a good thing here. Not, as Councillor Funk mentioned, just for us, but for future members of the community that want to run and want to serve for this wonderful city.
Thank you. Councillor Spector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just something needs to be pointed out. I'm likely going to make a motion for an amendment, which is a pretty straightforward one. But if you look at section 11, clause 11 is not consistent with the rest of the bylaw. It says that the indemnities shall be subject to the increases, shall be equal to the average annual increase approved for city employees. The recommendation of the task force is to tie it to a percentage of the MLA salaries when those salaries are currently frozen and will remain frozen for the next few years. So clause 11 is directly inconsistent with that, so I'm going to make an amendment. And I'm certainly willing, if the city manager has something to do, but the amendment I'm going to put out there is to strike clause 11, because they did not recommend that we continue to do increases if the MLAs don't receive an increase.
Okay, thank you. That is not a friendly amendment. That is an actual amendment. Do you so move that amendment?
I'll move it. I mean, it could be friendly, but I'm also, perhaps we want to hear first from the city manager on
Okay.
whether my comments are correct.
I'll just, I'll ask the question of council then for clarification. In the recommendations in the task force report, there was the clause that mentioned the per diem to remain indexed as currently is. My understanding is that was
The per diem, yes,
correct.
but not the salary. That's the daily per diems that they were talking about, that would, because they weren't making any recommendations to change how we do that.
Correct.
But the salaries, they were saying, should be tied to the MLA salaries or percentage, so if theirs are frozen, ours are frozen, if theirs go up, ours go up.
And as far as the regular council salaries, that is addressed in paragraph 10.
Is it? So what is,
And paragraph 11 relates to,
B and C? Okay, nope, then I'll withdraw that. Then that clarifies what I needed, because it looked to me that it was the annual increase, that it was affecting the salary. Okay, I'll withdraw that.
All right. Just to be clear, though, Section 11 does refer to pay applicable for the 2019 calendar year and 2020 and 21 and 22.
I can move a friendly amendment that those, or just suggest that those be changed to reflect the years that are consistent with the motion.
With the 12. Okay, thank you. That would be a friendly amendment. Are you comfortable with that as a friendly amendment?
I am comfortable with that, but there's also something else now that's staring at me with number 10. After the city manager brought our attention to number 10, I see that it's also, the first line says that the compensation shall be outlined as part 1 as be applicable for the year, the 2019 calendar year. So we'll have to change that date too.
All right, so the friendly amendment is that all the dates get changed accordingly to reflect the changes of the original amendment. Is that correct? Okay, and it'll be brought back in either second or third reading, probably third reading, with the correct wording. Is that correct? Okay, we're comfortable with that, Mr. Workentine?
just a request, if it is acceptable to council, if they are prepared to proceed with first reading, I could make the amendments,
Second and third.
make sure that everything is reflected in accordance with council's intentions, and then bring it back to a future council meeting for second and third reading.
Okay, good. Yep, very good. All right, any further questions or comments? Okay, call for the question. All those in favor of first reading? Thank you. We'll look forward to seeing that second reading, then just tweaking those few numbers, and it's never as simple as just a 1 or 2. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. All right, we have the minor subdivisions. This is the first part of the year. This is on page 49. Council, you've had a chance to review all of those. Are there any questions? Seeing none, can I have someone move that motion on the bottom of 49? Councillor Fair, second by Councillor Funk. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Any questions of council? Seeing none, we'll move to the correspondence and petitions from Epp Library, minutes on page 50. Take those as information. There's no other business. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Fair. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.